So, when you think about the greatest animated films ever, what comes to mind? Probably the big guys, right? Pixar, Disney, Studio Ghibli. But what if I told you there's another film out there? A quiet masterpiece that absolutely deserves to be spoken about in the same breath. Today, we're going to make the case for a modern classic.
And look, that's not just me saying it, it's a feeling a lot of people have after they've seen it. The film I'm talking about is Kubo and the Two Strings, and it's a piece of art that, kind of quietly changed the whole game for animated stories.
So how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to break it down into 4 key parts. We'll look at why it's such an underrated masterpiece, the just incredible handcrafted miracle of its animation, the deeply human story at its core, and finally, its really brave and beautiful approach to storytelling.
All right, so let's set the scene a little. This film came out back in 2016 from Laika, the studio that gave us Coraline. And here's the really important part. In an age of endless sequels and remakes, this was a completely original story. I mean, what a rare and ambitious bet on something totally new. And right from the very first frame, you just know this isn't your average animated movie. It's got this weight to it, a real texture. The artistic ambition just feels different. It's not just trying to entertain you, it's really reaching for something more, trying to be a genuine moving piece of art.
And you can see that ambition most clearly in the animation itself. It's a handcrafted miracle, honestly. And this is where the genius of the film really starts to shine.
So, while pretty much every other studio uses CGI these days, Laika went with stop motion. Now, you have to understand, this is one of the most painstaking, labor-intensive ways to make a movie on the entire planet. I mean, every single object, every character, every little facial expression, it's all moved by hand, frame by frame, excruciating frame.
And what do you get from all that crazy effort? You get a world that feels tangible, like you could literally reach out and touch it. The raging ocean, that towering skeleton, those delicate little origami creatures flying through the air, they all feel real because, well, in a very real way, they were.
And hey, just to give you a sense of the sheer scale we're talking about, that giant skeleton? That wasn't some computer effect. Nope, it was an actual physical puppet, one of the largest ever built for stop motion. The ambition here is just staggering. It's hard to even wrap your head around.
So here's the bottom line on this part. The film's visual style, it's not just a choice, it's a statement. It's a celebration of the human hand, of patience, and of pure, undeniable craftsmanship.
But world-class animation is nothing without a heart, right? And this is where Kubo goes from being a technical marvel to a true emotional masterpiece. It dives headfirst into themes that most animated films, frankly, wouldn't dare to touch.
See, at its core, this is a story about loss and about how we learn to live with it. So many other stories try to just, fix sadness real quick. But Kubo does something different. It suggests that grief and memory, they're a part of us. They're not some weakness you have to defeat. They're the very threads that make us who we are.
And that whole idea carries over to Kubo himself, who just completely shatters the mold of the typical hero. He's not loud or overconfident, he's fragile, he's scared. And his strength hasn't come from his fists, it comes from his creativity, from his connection to his family's story. He just feels so incredibly real.
Even the villain is way more complex than you'd expect. The Moon King isn't some generic bad guy trying to destroy the world. No, in his own twisted way, he thinks he's offering Kubo a gift, a life without any painful memories, without all the messiness of being human. It's this moral complexity that makes the conflict so much more compelling than just good versus evil.
Okay, and all of this brings us to our final and maybe most important point, the film's brave and beautiful storytelling. Because it's not just what the story is about, it's all about how it's told. Seriously, nothing in this movie is there by accident. Every single image is just loaded with meaning. Those 2 strings on Kubo's shamisen, they're his parents. The paper origami that comes to life, that's the fragile but powerful nature of stories. And the villain, he's a symbol of what happens when we try to erase our memories and lose our humanity.
So, how do you end a story like this? A story that's so deep, so emotionally complex? Do you just have a giant flashy battle with a bunch of explosions? Is that it?
Nope, not in this movie. The film completely rejects that typical blockbuster ending. Instead of defeating the villain with some magic weapon, Kubo defeats him with empathy, with memory. He uses the power of stories to heal not just a person, but an entire community. It is such an incredibly brave and emotionally mature way to end a story.
And really, that choice right there is what makes this film so special. I mean, in a sea of sequels and safe, predictable formulas, Kubo dared to be different. It took a huge risk on emotional intelligence. It actually trusted its audience to get a more nuanced, more meaningful story.
So what's the final verdict here? Kubo and the Two Strings. It's so much more than a children's film. Yes, it's a technical masterpiece, absolutely, but it's also a visual poem. It's a deep meditation on grief and a beautiful celebration of how we use stories to keep the people we love alive in our hearts.
Look, it wasn't the loudest movie at the box office when it came out, not by a long shot, but its impact is undeniable. It's a beautiful reminder that our memories, our families, and our stories, well, that's the most powerful magic we have. And that's a message that's going to echo for a very, very long time.